And I say this to a lot of runners, stay ready, the brink of the race, like to take it there simply by knowing that my coach cares about me. Someone could be married or be with their spouse, and maybe they just didn't have time to come out there, or maybe they don't understand the loneliness it feels to run 26.2 miles and your toes hurt, your body's aching at the end.
Welcome to the Safe Space Running Podcast, where our goal is to encourage, empower, and enable. When I say I'm excited for today's guest, it is an understatement. She is a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal coach, and a phenomenal person. I'd like to welcome Asia to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing so well, and I want to say thank you for having me today as a guest.
No, when I say I'm excited, I've been, like I said, we both ran Sydney together, and I've been watching your just your energy and your progress on social. And like I said, you are truly a phenomenal athlete and a phenomenal coach. What do you have planned? Speaking of which, what's your next big race you're thinking about?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
And I actually, when I was in Chicago for one of my runners, another one of my runners was there and said, Coach, I want you to speak in this camera and just give some tidbits. And that was one of the questions he had asked. And I'll upload it to you. But I remember saying, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, nor has it entered into man's heart, the things that God has planned for me. But I said that to remind people to be ready for anything. A
Mm.
lot of my life has been abruptness of things that I had no idea to know. I was going to do Sydney or I was going to do New York City Marathon. Those things kind
Wow.
of came last minute. And I say this to a lot of runners, stay ready.
Mm.
I know that there's something that will happen. I have some of my bucket races I want to do. Like, for instance, I'd like to do Berlin next. I know I've been kind of doing these world majors. But life is very spontaneous where it may not be that. It might be something else. But I like to always keep myself in a ready state in life, in all things like education, academics. I like to always stay ready.
I'm with you on that. My rule of thumb has always been, since I've ran, has always been at least be half marathon ready. That's always been
Okay.
my benchmark of, because I'll sign up for, as soon as one of my friends says, "Hey, let's pull." They don't even have to say pull up to this. Let's pull. I'm already in. So I get that, totally, completely understand. I'm also thinking about Berlin. I didn't get in through lottery, so there's that. But I know there's other avenues and such that we can get into that.
Yeah. I will say, like, because you mentioned, I know with runners, some of them are not always in marathon shape, but they want to do a marathon. And I
Hmm.
always tell them, like, you really want to build yourself up, like maybe 5K, 10K, a 10 miler, or a half marathon. And a lot of people go straight to the marathon, but
Yeah.
my way of saying, letting them people know to stay ready is like really building your base up in those races to get to the big races.
That's the context that most people miss. Totally agree on that. You can't just jump into. It's funny because the last interview I was doing was talking about, taking, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it bite by bite, so
Exactly.
to speak. It's literally the same line for that. So I appreciate that, and I'm excited to see what race you sign up for, spontaneous, because you're always ready. So I'm here for it.
Always.
So I wanted to, again, this series is really about the importance of coaches and how coaches move into the space with their relationship with athletes. I know you have your own coaching company called Machine Athletics. For those who have not seen it, please follow it on Instagram as well. A lot of really good information that's shared there. But I wanted to start the conversation off with, what is your why? Why did you decide to go into coaching, and what was your motivation behind it?
So I actually started coaching as soon as I finished running at Eastern Michigan University.
Mm.
I was like a volunteer coach in 2013, 2014, and then in 2015, I took certifications to become a coach. And I did a graduate coaching program at the University of Detroit Mercy for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And this is my 10th/11th year coaching.
Wow.
And I say that because, a lot of things happen in the background for me to coach. I think people think coaching is this like easy thing you do, but I would say
Mm.
more specifically why I decided to coach. I saw the power of what it could do for my life.
Mm.
Completely transformed how I got into education. Like my family, I'm a first gen. My parents don't have a college degree.
Hmm.
They came from humble beginnings. And when I saw what the power of running can do, and the power of consistency can do. I've seen a lot of athletes when I was a graduate coach. I saw a lot of athletes who did not make it, who were just as good as me or better than me, but
Mm,
they lost a lot of foundational skills along the way. So my goal was to ensure those skills can be maintained. When I finished running at EMU, I realized I still had more potential outside of a 4-year university. But
mm,
there's a shortage in coaches because a lot of coaches go to AAU, they go to college, they go to high school, and then there's this professional realm, meaning if you're not at the professional extreme level,
yeah.
then you just should stop running. And I felt like, well, everyone can't be a Shakiri Richardson, everyone can't be an Allison Felix, and that's okay. But there still should be an opportunity for you to see what you could do outside of 4 years. And so I realized there's just really not enough coaches with expert knowledge, professional knowledge of like D1 athletics and all of this to curate that gap. And so I said, Machine Athletics will be here to curate that gap for athletes who want to train a specific way that I like to train. So I stopped coaching at Detroit Mercy and I didn't want to go back in the college realm because I
Mm-hmm.
realized there's opportunity outside of that to grow in that space. And that's something I realized that throughout my coaching background, my coaching support, there was something I could offer other people.
That's really amazing because from my experience, most of the athletes that I've came across are nowhere near. Like I said, I'm not getting paid for this. That's for sure. And when I say I'm fast, I can hold my own, but I'm no professional. And there's a lot of people that we come across that weird void space of coaching, that void that you've found a niche in. I think is honestly the bulk of the runners that are out there. A lot of people out there are just trying to do something better for themselves, and having opportunities and coaches like you out there to really help fill that void that may not be at the professional level or collegiate level says a lot. It says a lot to why you do it, and that's pretty admirable to say the least.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's I just wanted to make sure that I gave back in a sense to people who supported me and that I could
Hmm.
really show people what your body, what your mind is really made of because it's not just running. When I reveal that to you, it will transfer in other areas of your life like it did for me. Like I said, I got a master's in business, a master's in computer science.
Wow.
That would have never happened without my running background. And I did both of those masters when I was coaching at the school. And that was my scholarship to get those masters paid for. But
Wow.
it shows the power of running really transformed my life. And that's what machine athletics is about, is really transformation.
I love that. I love that because I agree with how much running can change people beyond the scope of just running and walking. I feel like as I've been running now. I'm sure we both have. I ran in high school and ran a little bit. We didn't have sports in college, so or I went to DeVry, so there's that. But
What?
but I mean, as I really got heavy into the half marathon space, I've been doing that now 15 years, and then the marathon is pretty
Wow.
recent within the past year and a half too. It's like the discipline involved in running and being consistent with plans have really cascaded into so many other aspects in life to where it's like if it's important it makes time, we make time for it, and I feel like running has really given me that discipline to apply it beyond just that, so I totally agree with you on that.
And mental health. Like I feel like
Hmm.
me personally running marathons and halves, 5Ks, 10Ks, that's not something a sprinter wants to do. But I feel like in my adult life, it has allowed me to maintain my fitness, my body, my mental health. Once you get off work and you go for a run, or if you have a race coming up, I know the power of when you PR, what that feels like. Like,
Mm.
don't get me wrong, you don't have to always PR, you don't have to always run fast, but we're not gonna act like we don't know what that feels like.
Right.
It feels amazing. Like,
Oh, it's lit, yes.
okay. And I want to give people that amazing feeling. Like when I think about when I broke a record, when I made it to NCAAs and I was top 12, when I shattered this, when our team won a championship and that confetti, like when we look at the NBA and they're like, anything is possible. I want to give people that feeling. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to go to the Olympics to have that confetti feeling. I want to give that
Mm.
to you in your local race. Like I want you to feel that gold medal experience. And it's like, I believe and I know I have the power to do that.
It's funny that you talk about that because it fits our topic for today for you particularly, which was support. The one thing that I've always noticed about, your athletic program is that you show up for your athletes. You go out and support them from thick through thin. You go out, like I said, you just mentioned you had some people at Chicago that you had went and go to spectate and things like that, which it's one thing to coach athletes and, give them the, here, follow this plan A, B, and C, or hand them a plan, but it's a whole nother thing to support them in the midst of their journey. So my question to you next would be, what does that mean to you, and how do you try to incorporate that into your programs, how you coach athletes in their training schedule, and again during the race days when you're most likely on the sideline cheering them on?
Yeah. So I always draw back to myself and my experience with my coaches. Running is a very spiritual place, meaning, there were times, a lot of times, I couldn't see my parents in the stands for that
Mm,
support. But my coaches had to fill that void because that can make or break an athlete, right? Their mental, if they feel that they have support or if they feel like they don't. And I feel like a lot of my performers with machine athletics are able to go to the brink of the race, like to take it there simply by knowing that my coach cares about me. Whether if I'm there in person or spiritually, they know that I want the best for them. It doesn't matter if we see eye to eye, because sometimes as a coach, when they're pushing you, there can, cause little disagreements on things. But at the end of the day, they know
mhm.
that I deeply believe in them to execute that. And I feel like when I was growing up, and I saw how much my coaches believed in me, and I know my parents believed in me too,
Yeah.
but there's just different levels of what it takes to get someone to take it there beyond their physical body when it breaks down. You have to dig deep into a place that runners know someone out here really, really believes in me. Someone cares.
Yeah, that right there. I think it really speaks to you and how you are as a person, because it's a sacrifice to give time, whether we believe, however we weigh it. There's a time you can have your time anywhere else. One thing I tell people all the time is you can spend your time anywhere else, but you chose to spend it here, and that
Yeah.
says a lot to the importance of how we really having a face there that's believed in you throughout the entire time, support you when it gets tough, because we've done enough races now. We know there is never a marathon, real talk, that I've had fun, but there's always a point where it's like this is the dumbest thing ever. But at
Yeah.
the same time, seeing those people that support you alongside of that and really gives that boost. That's why spectating is so important, for those who may be, considering to go spectate a race. Go spectate a race for sure. Go
Yeah.
support them. But
And a lot of people don't have family to support them. I think we all
that,
think that
yeah.
everyone has like cheerleaders or support. Someone could be married or be with their spouse, and maybe they just didn't have time to come out there, or maybe they don't
Hmm.
understand the loneliness it feels to run 26.2 miles and your toes hurt, your body's aching at the end. Everyone cannot understand what that feels like. And, I just keep drawing to my experience, like growing up. I just remember like there were points in my life where financially my parents didn't have the time or the money, and they kept telling my
Hmm.
coaches, no, she can't run, we don't have the money, we don't have the financials, we can't take her because we work a lot. It was all, and I call them excuses, but in my opinion during that time that's what it was. But my coaches were like, no, we're going to find a way to get her to
Hmm.
practice. Every single parent or coach, every single day pick me up and drop me off, and every single weekend they pick me up and
Wow.
drop me off every single day. When it came to when I did AAU or if I was running, they found sponsors, they were writing people. Like it was just like the biggest support I had ever seen. Like it was literally no child left behind. Like she is going to make it.
I
Her
love
talent
that.
and
Yeah.
drive is incredible. So it's like when I experienced that, I realized that if you have the power to do something, if you have the connections, if you have the network, help someone else in their journey. And so that has always stuck to me that the school, my coaches, Lisa Page, Sue Parks, Amy, they never allowed anything to stop my power or what I could be.
That that's powerful. It's
Very.
you when you said that, it just took me back to high school when I remember one track meet. I was leaving. I was at a alternative school and we didn't have busing to. I was always late to practice because it took an hour and a half to get to practice. But I remember my coach, picking me up for various meets to make sure that I was there and that he made me do extra workouts. But even after practice when everyone else was gone, he stayed there with me and supported me and made sure that I was still successful in any means necessary. And
That's
that's
amazing.
yeah, it is. It's funny you mentioned because it really just it's easy to forget and not really appreciate that. But now that you mention that, it's like he didn't have to. You know, our coaches
At
couldn't.
all.
They don't
He
have
could
to.
have like said, you know what? I guess you just can't. You
Right.
did great. Like, and I want to say this too because this is really important. A
Yeah.
coach, Lisa. I remember one time Lisa would always pick me up for practice, and one day I said my mom's gonna take me to practice because my mom wanted to take me to practice. But my mom was kind of like moving a little bit slow, and we got to practice very late.
Mm,
And Lisa said, "Come here." I was like 9 or 8 years old. She said, "Why were you late to practice?" And she like yelled at me, and I was like crying because I was a child. And I
mm-hmm.
was telling her, "It's not my fault. It's my mother's fault. My mom got me here late. It's not my fault." She said, "No, you are responsible for your life. You are in charge of your life. And if you know that you were going to be late, you should have called someone else. You should have called me, and I would have came and picked you up." And ever
Mm,
since that day, she reminded me, I am responsible as an athlete, as a runner, as a woman. I'm 8 years old, but she reminded me my life is in my hands.
yeah.
My performance, my athleticism is in my hands. You have the power to get a scholarship. You have the power to get masters. You got the power to be powerful. Are
Yeah.
you going to allow, I don't care if it is your parents, are you going to allow your circumstance to tear that up for you, or are you going to take control? And I was crying. I thought she was being mean. So I want to say, like, when people get coaches, it's not always a coach's job to comfort you because they're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
other environmental things that's stopping you from how great of an athlete you could be. And my coaches weren't always nice to me. And a lot of times I tell people, I can't be your friend and make you successful as a runner, athlete, person. Because there's going to be
Mm,
times where you're going to be fighting me with what you know, your environment, your mental health, your trauma. I'm up against that. Lisa was up against those things, especially as a young Black child. She was a white
mm-hmm.
woman, but she knew she was up against oppression. And so, a
Yeah.
lot of times when Black runners want to get into the space of the marathon, they're carrying the weight of their oppression, their trauma, and I'm up against that as well.
There's it's so I love that you mentioned that because it's one thing that me and my coach have talked about before is that people's lives play a huge role into their success and how they approach training. And
Yes.
having support isn't always, hey, you got this great. It's not always happy. It's not always, happy go lucky. Real talk, you got to be honest. And I think support, that honesty in that support means you'll butt heads sometimes. I know a couple of times I've butt heads, once or twice with my coach because I wanted to do my own thing, and he's like, "Yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing that." But it's like, I love that you brought that transparency of support isn't always just a happy here we got this kind of thing. That it's being ensuring that the success of the athlete is still always in the forefront. That's what I get from that. It's just it's not always pretty. I love that your coach planted that seed that early because that's powerful. Like if it was me at that age, I'd have been like, what are you talking about? But the fact that you
Oh, I
took
was
that and
crying in front of her because I'm like, why are you blaming me? I'm a child.
yeah, but that's powerful to be spoken over your life at that nature because that probably set forth, a lot of the aspects of who you are now and how you approach it. Because we are in control of our lives. We are in control of those aspects, and it's up to us to ensure that. And having that coach support you enough to be that honest with you, that says a lot. That's a real one right there. That's
A
a real
real
one.
one. And she had other kids, and they were on her basketball team, and she was coaching them. But she really had a special light for me, for real.
That's the beauty of it, and I go and it'd be remiss for me to say that I'm sure you have the same for your athletes, just because
Oh
of
yeah.
there's such an admiration. Again, I watch from afar, but there's a truly an admiration of how you approach your coaching, and again how you approach the supporting aspect of your athletes.
Yeah.
So I have one more question for you, and that would be so again, there's a lot of people who are getting into the coaching space for whether it be they're going in professional or they want to pass off advice to others. What would be one thing you would suggest to those who are looking to enter in that space?
To enter into the coaching space.
Yes.
So I would say if someone is looking to enter in the coaching space, and I actually got DMs about this from other coaches. The first
Hmm.
one, you are the subject matter expert. It is your job to always get and gain relevant modern information as far as staying up to date with coaching, right? There's so
Mm-hmm.
many things changing. And honestly, soft skills of how you deal with athletes, it's kind of like parenting. Now it's gentle
Yeah.
parenting, so coaching is a
Yeah.
lot of parenting. You got to understand, okay, what are the different techniques and resources? Number two, you are the pulse of your system of the room. If you are speaking to an athlete and you had a bad day, that's on, like, athletes can feel their leader's energy. You're a leader when you're a coach. You
Mm.
have to make sure you're motivating, you're inspiring, you're letting them know. Like, I had an athlete one time that was hesitant on if he could hit the time or the PR. And I said, you can, you will. You have to stand your ground as a coach. And then the third one, last one I'll say, for coaching, you have to understand you cannot save everyone, and that is okay. If athletes
Mm.
leave your program, that is fine. And I want to say why that is so key and so important to a coach's mental health. When I was shadowing as a coach for Detroit Mercy or Eastern Michigan University, those coaches taught me no athlete is bigger than the program. A lot of times when you make an athlete so great, they start thinking they are bigger than the program. My coaches, Lisa, Amy, I can keep going on, Sue Parks, made me understand. I don't care how talented, how gifted you are. You are not bigger than the program. You are always second best. You
Mm.
must stay humble. And they never made me feel like my ish don't stink. A lot of athletes get so
Yeah.
fast, so good, they start thinking they're bigger than the program. And what I saw those coaches do was they even had to let their best athletes go. And sometimes,
Mm.
as a coach, you may be faced with the decision to let some of your best athletes go because you have to teach people a lesson before destruction happens. And warning comes before destruction. And a lot of athletes that could have made it to the Olympics, got gold medal, had to learn. Even Sha'Carri Richardson had to learn.
Mm-hmm.
She's still trying to get that gold medal in that 100. She's learning, life teaching her. You're not bigger than the program, and that's okay. We all have to learn by the program of what it takes to be a successful athlete.
I love that. That's real talk. I think I've had a couple people who would be discouraged of, especially the last topic of, not every athlete is for every coach, and letting
That,
people go. I think, I mean, me speaking personally, I like to be everyone's friend, and that was one thing I was worried about going into the space. It's like, well, I just want to, I love friendship, but I know that I say it all the time, and in the stuff that I do with music is, everyone has different music tastes. Everyone has different coaches. Every athlete and coach may not mesh all the way, and because if you have to, separating does not mean failure. I love that you brought that out, especially
yeah,
for a coach's mental state. I don't think it's talked about enough of the toll and the time it takes for good coaches. How much effort I've been learning that now. How much time and investment it takes to really look into people's plan, look into their data, figure out what's going on and what's how that plays into their success, and the time it takes for us as coaches to really put in that time to ensure their success. And not all the
definitely.
time it works out, but I think that's really wise words to go off of.
And I would say in my journey, I did, like, if people listen to what I said, I shadowed different coaches. I asked other coaches questions. I made sure to know that I didn't know everything. And I think a lot of times coaches think that, oh, I don't have to ask for help. And you might have to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that because I love I, I always feel like we don't know everything, and there's always something for us to learn, and that's the one thing that I feel I do it in my job. I always cross reference with other IT professionals, and it's the same thing for coaching. Just making sure that we bounce, ideas. As you said, your first point, finding that continuous modern learning and understanding that for your athletes to ensure that they're always successful in that. So,
Definitely.
needless to say, it's been truly a pleasure. I really enjoy speaking with you and the depth of knowledge that you've brought to me. Again, I always get to learn something new. And again, I've always admired your program. I've always admired you as an athlete, and I appreciate what you do for the community for running and walking. So, again, thank you for all that you do, especially for Machine Athletics and the athletes you have under your fold. It's amazing to watch what was instilled into you is what you instill into your athletes. And I, for
Definitely.
one, am appreciative of what you do and thankful for that. I'm sure they are as well.
Thank you, Chris. And I want to appreciate you for this podcast and this space that you allow coaches, runners, and athletes of all types come here and speak on their journeys and what we do. I really appreciated this conversation, and I, wish you to have a great, successful running career and journey for yourself and
I
coaching.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm sure we'll be sharing a course soon. So again, thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.